Welcome everyone to another episode of No Creative Spotlight series on TradeHub's public-private partnerships. No Creative is collaborating with the TradeHub team to showcase its co-investment partnerships and learn about the additionality to the economic growth of the region. We will also explore the emerging best practices and lessons learned from the TradeHub's private sector engagement approach. So here with me today is Charles Polet, a PPP manager covering financial institutions and advisories in Ghana. And Charles and I will be discussing the TradeHub's co-investment partnership with Ethical Apparel Africa and lessons learned so far with the project. Hello, Charles.
Hi, Adrian. Thanks for hosting me.
Of course. So getting right down to it, can you tell us about TradeHub's co-investment partnership with Ethical Apparel Africa? Why are we co-investing with them and what are the objectives?
Thanks, Adrian. This is a good question. So we invested around $1.35 million into the project, and that $1.35 million is catalyzing around $6.7 million in private capital investments. And combined investment will then result in the creation of 800 jobs in a town where only 20% have formal employment. And it will also generate around $19 million in exports. Now, this investment in the apparel sector is actually quite important. We've been trying to scale the apparel sector in West Africa, with Ghana being the hub. And this investment in particular actually fosters women entrepreneurship and empowerment, economic empowerment. For instance, specifically for this project, the number one customer is operated by a woman, and CEO is a woman. The grantee, Ethical Apparel, has a woman CEO and COO. And Ethical Apparel is actually an apparel sourcing company. And they've invested in Grace, which is the apparel manufacturing company in Ghana. And that is founded by a woman CEO. Now, the workers, approximately 70% of the workers are women as well. And going back to the US-based client, they focus on medical scrubs and chef uniforms. So again, let's not forget, around 70 to 76% of the healthcare workforce are actually women. So we believe investing in EAA actually empowers the woman along the entire value chain.
Perfect. That's really great to hear. So I think you've touched on it a little bit there, but what is the additionality this partnership with Ethical Apparel have to the economic growth of not only Ghana, but the rest of West Africa, the region?
The key attempt here is to accelerate the development of the apparel sector in West Africa. And the only way to accelerate that is by increasing investments and increasing training, upskilling the workers so that they can create more complex products coming from the US. And by investing in this project, which is named Model Factory, for instance, we believe this is the catalytic purpose of our investment.
Great. Thanks for outlining the partnership that we have with Ethical Apparel Africa. And from the looks of it, it's there's already good work and more good work that will be done with a co-investment. So the next set of questions I want to take is zoom out a little bit from that particular partnership to TradeHub in general. Can you briefly talk about the operations of the project and where do you see it lie in the spectrum of development finance? I know that it has a very interesting model.
Thank you for that question. That's a very good question because the TradeHub is indeed structured quite differently. So within the spectrum itself of investments, it is development finance, which means it's really more focused on social impact or economic impact. So in this case, again, the key objectives were to generate $400 million in sales at least, and exports of around $300 million and 60,000 jobs, right? 50% of which should be for women. Now, because it's structured as a co-investment, we do believe that co-investors will be economically driven. That is, they would like to have returns, whether that be in 3 years, 5 years, 7 or 10 years. And that is quite important for us because the whole point here is actually to promote journey to self-reliance within the investments. And so we're catalyzing these investments, catalyzing the growth of these SMEs so that within 5 or 3 years, they are fully reliant on commercial capital or commercial-like capital. Now, to address your first question, which is the operations of the trade hub, right? So again, referencing the fact that we are a co-investment vehicle. So as a co-investment vehicle, we don't have the luxury of a long-term due diligence on these companies. It means that we rely on the co-investors, their expertise, their reputation in the market, their capacity to execute and grow SMEs. Now, by focusing on that capacity, we reduce the risk of failure, right? Two, we reduce the risk of basically not executing. And if it fails, that also has reputation risk to USAID and to Creative. And so it's like by simply focusing on who else are investing, the credibility, we reduce that risk. The second thing that we have to keep in mind is that because the structure itself is really short term, it's just 5 years. So by 2024, we have to start reporting, right, the total impact generated. Again, so it's aligned with the fact that, again, focus on the co-investors. Who are they? How do we attract them to come to West Africa? And then we focus on the structuring of the trade hub's capital. Can it be a first loss? Will they come if there is a first loss? Can we partner with a second loss provider guarantee? Should we use the grants as TA? So I think these operations of the trade hub, using the funds either as training, as TA, as first loss, that capacity, that ability to be flexible to make sure that the private capital investors come into West Africa, generate the returns, that's what the trade hub does.
Perfect. Thanks for outlining that and talking about the risk and the considerations of this model as well. And so my final question to you then is, after talking about the operations, talking about the risks and considerations of the model, what are the key elements of Trade Hub that we can take back and utilize in other development projects?
That's a very good question. And I think the key word here is catalytic. And so as we're trying to determine ways of using private capital in sectors such as healthcare or education or economic development in post-conflict countries, there are a vast spectrum of private capital investors, some of which are looking for more impact than returns. And partnering with those kinds of investments by leveraging the grant financing with development funds is actually an interesting opportunity. These can be structured simply on the base of impact returns, for instance, or community-based returns. And these are already in effect happening in the US. And I think now it's a good opportunity for us to explore in different contexts around the world.
Perfect. Thanks for sharing that, Charles. It's always good to be able to take, the learnings of one of our projects and seeing how, even just a few key elements can be adapted to other projects in different sectors that focus specifically on another technical area other than finance. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Adrienne. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.